Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone. And today is the Murli of 19th March. And it's quite interesting to see the difference between Baba's view about what this is and BK's view about what this is. And he brings us to his view. I think BK's like everything to be organized and a little formal, a little bit like a regular worldly school for small children, where you have to write things down and everything has to be graded and so on. But he has a very different approach. So, the essence, sweet children, again and again, remember the Father and the inheritance. Why? Because you need to understand that you're doing this for a reason, not just because it's nice and sweet, but because you are creating your future for 21 births and beyond that, the whole cycle. So the inheritance is important. Who your father is important in terms of his status, which is the highest there is. The Father, the spiritual surgeon, gives you only one medicine to make you ever healthy, and that is, he says, remember me. That means we have to be connected, tuned to Shiv Baba, because then you take the current, you take the power, and this is what purifies the soul. And when the soul is pure, then the diseases erupt and go away. Question. What should you talk to yourself about so that you experience great pleasure? And the answer, tell yourself whatever is visible through these eyes will be destroyed. Only I and Baba will remain. Sweet Baba is making us into the masters of heaven. You may not survive the destruction, but it'll be just a blink of an eye, and then you appear in the world of heaven in that sense. By going into solitude and talking to yourself in this way, you'll experience great pleasure. Om Shanti. The Supreme Father, God Shiva, is speaking. Sweetest children, remember the most auspicious confluence age at each step. Each step means every decision that you have to make. Only you children know this, but it is number-wise according to your efforts. Remember in your understanding that this is the most auspicious confluence age. So that means at every step you have a possibility to do very elevated pure karma. So take the chance. We are becoming the most elevated people, and Baba has come to free us from the cage of Ravan. When a bird is released from any cage, it is very happy and it flies into the air in happiness. So you children also realize that this is Ravan's cage. A cage means limits and compulsions. And there are many different kinds of difficulties, hardships to be endured. The Father has now come to release us from this cage. So the cage, especially the social system, which is very limiting, the traditional old Indian social system everyone is very much in bondage. So Baba has come to release us from this cage, and we are regular human beings. In the scriptures, it is written that there was a war between the deities and the devils, and that the deities won the war. Actually, there wasn't a war like that, but you are now becoming deities from devils. You are gaining victory over Ravan, which means the 5 vices, not the Ravan community. So what is the Ravan community? This is a reference to the Ramayana. And so the setup in India is that Ravan was the king of Sri Lanka. And so the Ravan community would be the people who live in Sri Lanka. So this is not what Baba's talking about here. It is the 5 vices. And there is no question of burning anyone. So the effigy of Ravan is created annually and burnt, which is symbolic of destroying the impact of the vices by yoga. You children become very happy that you are going to a world where it never gets too hot or too cold, but it is constant springtime. So the springtime of the golden age is now coming. In this world, spring lasts just for a short time, but the golden age and silver age, the climate is a very temperate, very comfortable, and so that is called permanent springtime. Here, people suffer and die due to the heat. In order for you to become free from all these matters of physical hardship, the imperishable surgeon is giving you medicine. Very easy medicine, just be in my remembrance. Medical surgeons have to remember many different drugs to give to people, whereas this surgeon has no other medicine, just remember him, and you will become completely free from disease. And that means all your impurities will erupt and go out. So it doesn't mean you won't get sick, but it means you understand that by having yoga, you will cause all the internal physical, mental, etc. illnesses to erupt. And so when they do come up, just let them go, because they are arising in order to depart from you. So today you would say you want to have a seminar on how to write a chart. You are taking up the subject of how to remember Baba, and you want a seminar on this. Now, Baba does not trouble you to sit down and write anything, and there's no need to waste paper like that. The Father says, just focus your attention and remember the Father. When people are not in Gyan, regular religious people, they do not write a chart about how much they remember their Father. There's no need to read or write anything for that. So there are a lot of people who do this, but there are Murlis where he says this will help you a lot. But in this Murli, he's saying you don't need to do that. You need to just pay attention and see whether you're connected or not as you continue through the day. So you say to the Father, Baba, I forget you. Now, if other people would hear you saying that, they would wonder, You say, Baba, we have become yours while alive. So why is this word while alive? It's because ordinarily, when people think about going to God, that is when they die, they go to God. But here you have come to God while alive. So why did you do this? It was in order to claim the inheritance of the sovereignty of the world from the Father. So then why do you forget such a Father? Can you not remember the one who is giving you such a huge inheritance? You have received this inheritance from him so many times before, yet you do forget him. If you wish to claim your inheritance from the Father, you have to remember him. Remember him means bear in mind who he is, bear in mind what he's asking us to do, bear in mind that this is your only support, God. As soon as you take support from anyone else, family, friends, etc., that's called forgetting the Father. So the deal here is to take support from one alone. And in exchange for that, he makes you the master of the world. You take support from anyone, you cannot be master of the world. So this is an interesting practice. So remember him and develop divine virtues. What is there to write about? Each of you must just ask your heart. So there's the story of Narad. So the story of Narad is that he was standing in line for getting married with Lakshmi, and she chose Narayan. And I suppose they were standing in line alphabetically, so he may have been standing next to Narayan, and he got angry that he was not chosen. So then he was told to look at his face in a mirror or in a pool of water, and he saw that his face looked like a monkey. And so this is why he says this right now. Ask your heart, what is your state of mind? What is your mood when different things happen? Do you get angry like Narad? Now, Narad was a great devotee. So you may be a very correct BK, doing everything, following all the rules, regulations, but you still get angry. So that's like Narad. You know that you are ancient devotees since many, many births. And now you experience so much happiness because you have found God and you are remembering the sweet Father. To the extent that you have remembrance, accordingly, you become capable of getting married with Lakshmi or Narayan. So this idea of getting married means that you are on the same level. Because in the golden age, you only get married with somebody who is on the same level as you. Then it would be a good marriage. When a child from a poor family gets adopted by a wealthy person, he becomes very happy because he will be educated, he will be given many opportunities in life. As a poor person, he has no chance. So this would happen in India. A wealthy person wouldn't have a child and he would look for someone who had potential, and then he would adopt him. So the boy would keep remembering his new father and inheritance. So he would disconnect from his biological family and connect with this father and the inheritance. There are many here, many BKs, who do not have the wisdom to become the child of the Father and claim a kingdom. You don't realize what this is. You don't realize what's at stake here. You don't realize the opportunity you have. So it is a wonder that you are not able to remember the Father who is making you into the masters of the world. Perhaps you don't think you should be a master of the world. Ask yourself. The Father has adopted you children, and so it is a wonder that you're not able to remember such a Father. You should remember him again and again and his property. What is his property? The knowledge, powers, virtues, the world, depth, purity, wisdom. The Father says, sweet children, long lost and now found children, most cherished children, you invited me to come here to adopt you. The Father has been invited to come. That means in the prayers of the Hindus, very specifically, they call on God to come and purify them. It is the Father who establishes heaven, and then he gives you the inheritance of heaven. You have called out to Baba saying, come and adopt us impure ones. You yourselves admitted that you were impure, poverty-stricken, dirty, and not worth a penny. So on the path of devotion, you were calling out to the unlimited Father to come. So the Father says, you didn't have so much sorrow on the path of devotion as the people of the world have now. So you who are Baba's children, you were deities in the golden age, you are wired to be connected with God, to have pure karma, and so your situation never gets really that bad. The Father has now come. That means it is the time of destruction. You understand that after this war, after the destruction, there will be no war for many births, many years. No wars will take place, nor will there be any trace of sorrow or sickness in the world. Now there are many, many illnesses. The Father says, sweet children, I liberate you from all sorrows, hardship, suffering. You have been remembering me, saying, oh God, come and take away our sorrow and give us peace and happiness. Everyone asks for these two things, peace and happiness. Happiness means prosperity, right? So they want peace and prosperity. Here there is peacelessness. Those who give advice of how there can be peace in the world get given peace prizes. But those people don't even know what peace is. I think it's the absence of war or something like this. You cannot attain peace from anyone other than the sweetest Father. You do try hard to make people understand, but still they do not understand. You should also write to the government and ask them why they're wasting their money for no good reason. Only the one Father, the ocean of peace, can create peace in the world. You can write a letter in a royal way to heads of government on good quality paper. When they see the good quality of the paper, they will think that it has come from an important person. So in your letter, ask them, tell them you're speaking of peace in the world. So when did you have peace previously so that you can receive it in the same way once again? You must have received it earlier. You cannot, as a principle here, you cannot desire something you never had. So you know about it, and so you can write down the time and date when peace and happiness prevailed in the world. It was the Father who came and created peace and happiness in the world, and that was the time of the Golden Age. When you see Lakshmi and Narayan, the emperor and empress, this implies that there is a dynasty. No one else knows the roles of Brahma and you Brahmins. Brahma's part is the main one. He becomes the chariot, the vehicle through which the Father carries out so much work. And this is why he is given the name multi-million times fortunate chariot, Bhagirat. So think about this, churn about how you can explain this. People have a lot of intoxication. I mean, they're very arrogant about their view about life. They don't question it, and they're not interested in another view. Now you must give them the introduction to the Father. Only the Father, the ocean of knowledge, has this knowledge. It is only when he comes that he gives this knowledge. Until then, no one else can give this knowledge. On the path of devotion, the devotees continue to perform acts of worship. Only the one Father gives you this knowledge. In fact, it's not possible for you to make a permanent book, a long-lasting book of this knowledge, right? Because this knowledge is at the time of destruction. So when we go, so does everything else. So you listen to this knowledge orally, and whatever books you do have are very temporary because they're all going to be destroyed. And all the notes you take are also going to finish. And when you take notes, it's just for your own efforts. The Father says, make a list of topics that you'll be able to remember. You know that these books, etc., won't remain. It is only the remembrance that will remain in your intellects. You souls become as completely full as the Father. So you have to absorb everything from Baba. And all the old things, whatever you can see with the eyes, will be destroyed at the end. Nothing will remain. The Father is the eternal surgeon. Souls are also eternal and imperishable. The soul leaves the body and takes another. And as time passes, whatever bodies people get will be progressively impure and unclean, weak, subject to disease. You children now know that you are becoming very elevated. It is the Father who makes you elevated. Suresh, them is pure. The sages and holy men, etc., do not make you elevated. The Father makes you this, pure. The Father says, sweet children, with my eyes, I flash you. And this is what it is, like this. I give you drishti and go. So I put you on my eyelids, not literally, but with a flash of the eyes and take you back with me. Souls, sit here in the eyes. That means your connection, your drishti connection is like that. Otherwise, the soul is in the forehead. The Father says, O souls, I will take you beyond with my eyes. Only a short time now remains. Therefore, make effort. Don't waste time. Ask your heart how much you remember sweet Baba. So Hir and Ranja, which was some lovers like Romeo, Juliet, they did not love each other for vice. It was a pure love. They just wanted to see each other and be in each other's company. They would meet each other. So the Father says, you should be like that. They are a lover and beloved for one birth, whereas you are my lovers for so many births. Just be with Baba. This is the love. So those things take place at this time. The words lover and beloved are not used in the Golden Age. There they remain pure. And when one thinks of the other, he or she would appear and they would experience happiness. You do not have to look at anything visible. At this time, you have to consider yourselves to be the soul and remember your beloved, the Father. Consider yourselves to be souls and remember the Father with great happiness. The Father continues to explain that on the path of devotion, you loved me as your beloved, and you sacrificed yourself to me. You used to say, "Oh, beloved, when you come, I will sacrifice myself to you. I will become yours." So the beloved has now come to make everyone beautiful. He tries hard to make you become like himself. And when you become beautiful, your bodies will also be beautiful. Souls had alloy mixed into them, and now be in my remembrance, and that alloy will be removed. Here in Madhuban, there is quiet and solitude. In Mount Abu, there were priests. Baba had connection with the religious school there. So when the priests would go for a walk, they would remain in silence. They had a rosary and they wouldn't look at anyone. They would walk slowly and stay in the remembrance of Christ because they didn't know the Father. It is said of me that God is beyond name and form. So if he is a point of light, what would they be able to see? And they don't know how to remember a point. You now know him. You understand this, which is why you come here. Madhuban is praised. So even in the scriptures, Madhuban is known as the place where Krishna played his flute. But this is the real Madhuban, where you come. So take time to sit in solitude as much as you can and remember the Father. Do not look at others. There are many rooftops. So in Madhuban, now all the rooftops have got solar panels on them, so you can't go, there's no space. But there used to be terraces on top of the history hall and the places of accommodation near the training center. People could go up there. And the other buildings that we have now were not there. So these are the rooftops. Go on the roof in the early morning in remembrance of Baba, and you will experience much pleasure. Wake up at night at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, you are the ones who are famous for having conquered sleep. So go to bed early and then get up at 1 or 2 in the morning and go onto the roof and stay in solitude on the pilgrimage of remembrance. You have to accumulate your income. You know, when people are at home in different parts of India, it's not safe to go up on the roof at night. So, but in Madhuban it was safe and they had guards. So it was a special opportunity. Remember the Father and keep yourself busy praising him and remembering him with all of his details. And teach each other as well. Baba is so sweet. By remembering him, your sins will be cut away. You have a very good chance of accumulating a lot of income here. So remembrance is income. So out of all the possible pure karma, remembrance of Baba is the most remunerative. You cannot do this in your own homes because you don't have the time, and the vibrations and atmosphere of the world are not clean, and so you cannot stay on the pilgrimage of remembrance. There is no need to write anything down for this. He's referring to the BKs wanting to have charts to write, and there are many different types of charts that different BKs have come up with, but he says you don't need that. Just check if you're connected. If there are lover and beloved, do they write anything about how they remember each other? No. Check yourself internally. Did I cause any harm to anyone? How many did I remind of Baba? You come here to progress, so make effort here. Sit in solitude on the rooftops and accumulate your income, because this is the time to accumulate. For the 5 or 7 days that you stay here, go and sit in solitude after listening to the Murli. You are sitting in your own home. Therefore, remember the Father, and you can accumulate some income for yourself. Many women are in bondage, and so they remember the Father very strongly. They say, Shiv Baba, free me from this bondage. These women are beaten so much for vice. They are in the feudal system of India. A woman has no choice. She has to be available, and if she refuses, she gets beaten. They showed how Draupadi was stripped. In the Hindi Murli, it was different. They showed how Draupadi was wearing green clothes, and green is symbolic of a field. And so if you are a field, then the man has every right to sow his seed in that field. And so she was raped, not just stripped. All of you are now Draupadis. Therefore, continue to remember the Father. And the Father tells you many clever ways in which you can remember him. It's not a question of having to bathe, etc. So in Hinduism, it's common, customary that if you want to meditate, then you take a bath and then meditate. But he says, no, you don't have to do that. But yes, if you have to empty your bowels, then you must take a bath. And even while some devotees are bathing, they remember God and the deity. So this is their custom. The important thing is remembrance. You have received a great deal of knowledge. It is the knowledge of the cycle of 84 births. So check yourselves internally and see throughout the day, how much do I remember the Father, the sweetest Father, who is making me into a master of heaven? Does my mind wander? Where does it go? This world, especially when Baba uses the word world, he's talking about the social world. All these people will go. Everyone is going to be destroyed. Only Baba and I will remain. By talking to yourself in this way, you will experience a great deal of pleasure. Those who come here are the oldest devotees. It is said that you cannot come in Gyan unless you have completed your bhakti. And then once you have completed your bhakti, you can let it go immediately. You can understand that those who do not come here are recent devotees, and they will come later. But those who have performed a devotion from the beginning, Copper Age, will certainly come here to claim their inheritance from the Father. Efforts here are incognito. Those who do not imbibe this knowledge are unable to make effort. You come here to be refreshed, so you can accumulate so much here in 1 week. You would not be able to accumulate that much in a year at your own places, so you can catch up in just 7 days. You must have experienced this in Madhuban. It is Baba who is giving you this advice. Acha. To the sweetest, beloved, long lost and now found children, love, remembrance, and good morning from the mother, the father, Bab Dada, and the spiritual father says namaste to the spiritual children. Namaste, Baba. The essence for dharana: sit in solitude, remember the Father, and accumulate an income. Check yourself internally to see that your mind doesn't wander at the time of remembrance. See, for how long do I remember the sweet Father? Secondly, stay in the constant happiness that Baba has freed you from Ravan's cage. You are now about to go to the new world where it's never too hot or too cold, but it is constant spring. That's why in the Golden Age, they don't really have doors, they just have curtains, and always a nice breeze moving the air through. And the blessing: may you be filled with the treasure of happiness and become a carefree emperor by transforming mine into yours. So those who have said everything is yours remain carefree. Nothing is mine, everything is yours. When you bring about such transformation, you become carefree. Everyone wants to be carefree. When there are no worries, then there is steady happiness. By saying yours and by becoming carefree, you become full of the treasures of happiness. You carefree emperors have countless, infinite, imperishable treasures which will not be there in the Golden Age. So you have the knowledge more valuable than any amount of gold and diamonds. And the slogan to use your treasures for service means to increase your savings account. So you've accumulated by studying, and when you give to others, you gain a great deal more. Om Shanti. So let's see what we will talk about with Sister Rose. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Sister Denise.
So, what a Murli.
When you mentioned in the beginning the approaches that sometimes differ with Shiv Baba and the BKs, I remember how in the beginning we used to write the chart, and there's a template sent from Madhuban, and it says like how many hours have you remembered Baba? What is the percentage of your soul consciousness? And I used to wonder, how do I figure out? Like it's very difficult to really have a very accurate chart. So, and yet Baba often talks about the importance of writing a chart.
Yeah,
Even though,
you didn't write it like that.
okay.
You see, BKs are absolutely excellent at making up things for other BKs to do. Other BKs. And then it goes out. So that's fine. But when you do it like that, it's not really practical, because you spend all your time trying to figure out what's this all about. You never actually get around to quantifying it. But it's more like keeping a journal. That's a much better way. When I came into Gyan, it was like that. You just keep a journal of your spiritual journey, your what's going on, what's happening with you, what are you encountering, what are you inspired by in terms of knowledge and meditation and so on. And that was very practical. And you could get a sense of progress by keeping a journal. So I think that when you have to start dealing in percentages and so on, that's just make you crazy, because it's very subtle. I would never do that. I never did it. I did keep a journal for a long time, but I always thought that these funny things about checking boxes and stuff, I thought that was no use for this practice.
But that's why it's also difficult to sustain it.
Yeah, but a journal, I think, is good because you're it's like constantly communicating with Baba through a written thing or writing to Baba, something like that. I think that that's much more real.
In the beginning of the Murli, Baba said that you must remember that this is the most auspicious confluence age at every step. And you clarified further by saying that every step means every decision that you make. In practical terms, how do I integrate being aware that this is confluence age in making decisions that have to do, for example, with my job or my studies?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people who came to Baba came quite young. We also did. And some people were still studying, some people were about to get married, some people were engaged. And then he would say, okay, now this is your last life. And the destruction is any time from this week to 100 years away. But mostly it's this week, next week, the week after. Always he would say it's very, very soon.
Mm.
And when I first came in Gyan, the idea was it was in 1976. So I came in 74. So I had 2 years to become Lakshmi and Narayana. I thought, ooh, better hurry up. And so I focused my full attention on that. So I left my job and became a dedicated sister and all these things. And then 1976, 31st of January came, and there was Aviak Murli, and Baba said, what are you going to tell people? Because you've been telling them it was 1976 and now it's past. So what are you going to tell them? So everybody looked expectantly at Baba, and he said, tell them we delayed it for you. So that they could come into the Gyan. And then, people thought, oh, it was 2000. Now the latest one is 2036, 37, something like that. But, he also said, don't be date conscious, be soul conscious, because the thing is, if you want to do this practice, like any art that you take up really fully, properly, you have to give a full amount of time. So he says you must give 8 hours a day for yoga, and yoga includes your study, your book, your all the different things, right? And then he didn't want people to get married, because if you get married, then you get in bondage. This is what Ravan's cage is all about. And you don't have the right to live your life the way you want. You don't have any freedom. And so he was saying, look, it's the confluence age, and the one thing you need in the confluence age is the freedom to choose what action you will do. So the action that gives you the greatest benefit is actually meditation, not just any old meditation, remembrance of Baba as he is correctly, because you accumulate an income, which he talked about in this Murli quite frequently. And you don't want to create any new negative karma. But when you're in bondage, there's a lot of people who will compel you to engage in negative karma of one kind or another. So you're not free. And if you, what he used to say to the young ones is, if you do this course of study and become a teacher, you will earn a massive income, millions of times more than what you would do by some ordinary job where you get a few hundred or something. So he would say this to give people the opportunity to really enrich themselves. Because whatever you do in the confluence age is multiplied by multi-millions. Whatever you do in the iron age is 1-to-1. And so remembering that it's the confluence age means remembering that every investment that you make, time, energy, money, talent, whatever it is, your investment is never a contribution or a donation, always an investment. And your return on that investment is gigantic. And this is really the point of remembering the auspicious. Auspicious means profitable. You see, in English translation, it comes auspicious, but in Hindi, it's kalyankari. So kalyankari means you get profit, a lot of profit. And a lot of the people in India in particular who come into Gyan are business people. So they're very motivated by profit. Baba was business community, all the Sindhis are business people. And so they are concerned about profit.
But a balance is also needed in to consider all the different factors in making a decision.
That's right. And this is why he would say, check yourself and see, are you up for this? He would encourage a great deal. But he would never force, you see. And also he would encourage those who he saw with a lot of potential. And what happened later is BKs would encourage anybody and everybody without making any and without ascertaining whether they're really material to be a good teacher, you see. And not everybody is inclined to develop that. Not everybody wants to live in solitude. I mean, you're in a community, but you're also alone. So how many people are like that? And you see, in Hinduism, a woman was never allowed to be free to decide to live a spiritual life. She had to be married or belong to someone and used as something for someone. But when you lead a spiritual life, you're free. And that's not allowed in according to the Manusmriti, you see, which is what everything is run by. And so he wanted people to have that chance, and he created the yagya partly so that people could invest in Baba's work, but also to create an environment where women could live without the society making them into pariah, because that was the alternative. The society does not accept that a woman has any rights to create her fortune, and definitely not spiritual life, you see. So this was all to offer that possibility, because many people wanted it, but couldn't.
You expanded about the meaning of remembering him, and that is to bear in mind who he is, that basically, really, he is your only support, and that to take the support from anyone else is to forget him.
Yeah. And you were talking also about balance, so I didn't really take that up properly. But if you are in your family, in your job and everything, there is a tendency of people to get into what's known in psychology as codependent relationships. That means you're taking support of the one you're giving support to, but you're still taking emotional support from. So people get very tied up with each other. And then they get betrayed, disappointed, abandoned, whatever. And they expect it not to be that. And so your balance is to play your part. But if you get caught up in the other actors, you will go out of balance. If you play your part, taking all your support from Baba, the real support, of course, you're involved with people professionally and in the family and friends and so on. But it's really this idea of living as a lotus, and that you are by yourself, even though you're in the midst of everyone. And you have to really work out the good balance of that. And, there is this expression in the Gita that you have to become independent of the pairs of opposites, like success and failure and fame and defamation and everything. Because when you're in that context, or even if you're in the yagya, you're still in the same social context, it's all the same material happens. And you have to be with Baba and performing. And you have to be able to say no. Don't just say Haji to everything all the time. You have to be able to set limits and boundaries, take care of yourself, understand what you will do, what you won't do, what you can do, what you can't do. It's mostly not what you can and can't do, it's what you will and won't do. Because you can do anything, but it goes out of balance. So you have to set those boundaries. And you have to understand, say, for example, you get old. This is what's happening. Gyan has been going on for long, long time. So those of us who came in young, now you're old. So you don't have the same amount of energy. And so you have to sort of understand how to move through your life, take care of your health, take care of your needs, and maintain your remembrance. And then it's all okay.
There's a lot of figuring out to do because, again, this can be taken to the extreme where, in the name of taking support only from Baba, I may not accept help from others.
Well, there is a story which illustrates this quite well, and it's a story that you find in a number of different cultures, but the one that's probably best known is there was a big rainstorm and there was flood and the waters were rising, and so the man was in his house and somebody came by with a boat, and said, "Come on, let's go. Waters are rising." He said, "No, God will help me." And then the water reached up to the roof, and he was on top of the roof, and a helicopter came by, said, "You better come." He said, No, God will help me." Then he drowned. And he went to God, and he said, "Oh, you didn't help me." He said, "What do you mean? I sent a boat. I sent a helicopter. What are you talking about?" So this is why people really need to understand that there are many ways in which you get Baba's support because he will work through different people. And you have to really discern the difference. If you are desiring support from somebody because you're emotionally involved with them, that will not be Baba giving you support. But if you need some help, you broke a bone or you, whatever, something happened, and then you need to be able to take the help that is there and understand that you have rights. You're Baba's child. He will take care of you through one means or another, but he's not going to do everything by magic. Well, it's very often you feel that it's a kind of magic, but it's all very practical, and you need to understand these things. Yeah. Don't be crazy.
I remember when many years ago we had a car accident,
Huh?
and Maggie was driving, and somehow both of us felt that, like we were kind of isolated in the midst of the very busy street, and like there was a soundproofing and we were floating.
Mm.
And the car was a wreck, but nothing happened to us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
well,
think quite a few of us have experienced something like that. I have too. And yeah, there are times when something really definitely magical does happen in very urgent situations. And it's all connected with, are you in remembrance? In a general way, not necessarily at that moment, but this is your relationship with Baba, and he will protect you at a time of need. So definitely, yeah.
this is a question from Zoom. In the Murli of the 14th of March, Baba said that, for instance, some of you may want to start a spiritual gathering outside. You want to accumulate in Shiv Baba's bank. But how are you going to do that? Children come here and give whatever they can to Shiv Baba's Bandari. So the question, does it mean that those gathering outside must give to Madhuban or Brahma Kumari centers if they want to accumulate in his account?
What happens is some people think that they can go take what they've learned from Brahma Kumaris and go outside and create their own organization and receive funds from people. And he's saying that's not how this works. You know, we have Madhuban as headquarters, we have regions, we have countries, we have all these things quite formalized. And in the early days when Brahma Baba was in physical form, it was much less formal. And it was quite recommended that if you go and do service and people want to have a center and you can go and look after that center, but they're all connected with Madhuban or connected with a region or something like this. So there's a way in which it's okay and there's another way in which it's not okay. And many times people don't know the difference. So he's clarifying that.
There's another question from Zoom. How are we pawnbrokers? Can Sister Denise explain this?
Yeah. What happens is somebody will go to a pawnbroker and put in an item of value in exchange for money. And then when they get money separately, they will go and reclaim that item. And so we can be called pawnbrokers. I don't know if that was a really accurate translation, but basically, when you put things into Baba's Yagya, it's an investment. And you will get the return on that investment. So never think that you're giving anything. But if you are, say, an instrument and people are making contributions to the center, and so you have to make sure that that contribution is used appropriately and correctly because you are a trustee. So it's really sort of looking at the pawnbroker as a trustee. And so do not use that money any old how. It has to be used for the purpose, correct purpose.
Being an investment is something that you have mentioned. I mean, I've heard it from you not just once. And you explaining that when we put in Baba's box, it's actually an investment. Or when we use our resources for Baba's service, it's actually an investment. And that to really remove this consciousness that I'm giving or I'm donating. But in reality, in practical life, we only invest when we have something extra that is beyond our needs.
Yeah, well, that's the same in BK. You have to do that. If you put in what you need, then that's not smart. You have to look at what you have and identify what you need, and whatever is extra, you can invest it. It used to be said, okay, you give up certain things, like maybe you were using alcohol, you stop using alcohol, maybe you were smoking cigarettes, you stop. So then the money that you would use for those things, you save. And so that becomes your extra. So like that. If you put in what you need, then you haven't understood too much.
That's a good clarification because sometimes it's not the way that is explained to us.
No, that's how it was explained to me. long, long ago. Yeah.
Okay. So another question. In Murli yesterday, Baba said that there they are aware that when their old bodies have reached a state of decay, they must shed them and take new ones. You also have a vision. Understanding is also called insight. Your new skins are ready for you, and you now have to shed your old ones. This is how it will happen there. Please explain more about understanding is also called insight.
Well, I think you can use the word intuition. Because in the golden age, first of all, your body will not decay. That doesn't happen. You have a translation issue there. But your body reaches its full term, and you get this feeling that, and you get a vision also. I'm going to become a baby, and you just do.
Mhm.
And this word insight is used in BK language of a long, long time ago. They used to use this word divya drishti for vision. And they also used to translate it as divine insight. And so then the current translators will take different words and put them there, which may or may not be clear, but that's what that's about. Mm.
Okay, thank you. Another question. What does Baba mean with master of the world?
Well, you will be the emperor of the world if you're one of the eight. That will happen. Now, if you're not one of the eight, you will be a master of your own world, master of your family, master of your community, but you're learning how to be a master, not a slave. You're learning how to be a leader. You're learning how to be the one that people look to when there's any question, or what's happening, and they look to you and they see sense, they see calm, they see like this. And so you can interpret it in many ways, but essentially it means literally that you will be Lakshmi and Narayan. So this is the aim. So you aim high, and then what you get will be a little lower than the top, because the top's already taken by Brahma Baba and Mama. But you will get according to your Purusharat.
If one is not able to do Baba's service physically, what are the other ways in which one can do service?
Well, there are thousands of ways
On
to
the Zoom.
do service. All you have to do is meditate, give good wishes, be positive, be an inspiration. There's lots of things. Just running around doing things according to fixed programs is not necessarily the best. It may be the most tangible, but you have to think, and very often you say, okay, Baba, use me, whatever way, and then let him use you. Don't dictate to him it has to be like this and it can't be like that, because that puts too many limits on yourself and on how you can relate to Baba as an instrument.
Another question. Can Sister Denise expand on these pairs of opposites? What are they really, and how do they affect our BK life?
Well, this is a matter of the Bhagavad Gita. And as you know, Baba says that when he speaks, that is the real Gita, and he corrects the otherwise not real Gita. But there are many parts of the Gita, many quotations of the Gita that come in the Murli, and if you don't know the Gita, you wouldn't know what's a quotation and what's not. But matter of pairs of opposites comes from the Gita. And Baba talks about it quite a lot. Because yoga means you have to remain in equilibrium in the face of fame and defamation, hot and cold, success and failure. And there's a whole list of them that's in the Gita. And, people think it's like this pleasure pain principle that psychologists talk about. And he says there will be some pleasure, there will be some pain of different kinds. And you have to be in equilibrium in the face of that. And lots of different pairs of opposites. But it's all to do with, you have good days and bad days. Be easy with that. You have lots of money or no money. Be easy with that.
It's
But
like I'm not really taking them in.
Well, the thing is, there's a spiritual law which says that if you are taking in the positive things, this will cause you to have to take in the negative things, which you will not like. But if you remain in equilibrium, you are not pulled and pushed one side or the other. You remain in balance. And it's all to do with sense perception. And here we are to be with Baba. And as he said in the Murli, everything, that means all the people, all the good ones, bad ones, nice ones, nasty ones, important ones, boring ones, everything is going to go. And all that there is left is you and Baba. In the Murli it said us and Baba, but in the end, there will not be us and Baba. He will go and you'll be there if you survive. But basically, that's not what's going to go. What's going to happen? Any time that you have to die, that's destruction for you. And so it's just you and Baba, and you leave the body. That wasn't made clear in the Murli translation, but it's about that.
Speaking of this, there's a comment about immortality. Like, I still need to come around to understanding this.
Well, this is why we learn about the cycle. Because when you're in linear thinking, you can't think about immortality because you have a starting point and an ending point, which is not immortal. You need to have circular thinking. And so the key instrument to enable us to recognize our immortality and claim it is to spin the cycle, to work with the cycle, to understand that there is no time ever when I, as a personal individual, did not exist, and nor will there be any such time. And that's because it keeps circling. Then when people really understand it, then they say, what's the point? And then you have to say, you are the point. This is you. You want to know who you are. And you continue endlessly. And for many people, that's out of range. So if you want to make it in range from out of range, you have to do a lot of work. But if you really work with the knowledge, maybe you will get an insight and grasp it, and then it's in range. So that's nice.
Murli is divided into several paragraphs in Hindi, but not seen in English.
No, it's occasionally you get a new paragraph. That depends on the person who writes it, because Baba just speaks boom, 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 boom. And then when I do the Murli, I put tons of paragraphs. And some people put 2 or 3 paragraphs. You can put paragraph wherever you want. It doesn't really matter. But the usefulness of having paragraphs is that you can, make the points, make it more graspable, more memorable, easier to work with than just a 3 pages long sentence with no full stop.
Yeah. That's why I told you that the way you were doing it, putting it in paragraphs form, is very user friendly.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Mm.
Okay, Sister Denise, one last question. I noticed I tend to enjoy the quiet soul world atmosphere when I sit in meditation. However, I I can also doze off
Well, this is
and then I
because,
come back again.
yeah, meditation means to think deeply about what's worth thinking about,
Mm.
and you won't doze off. If you
Mm.
just think meditation means I just, you see, because you're not meditating. You have to think. Meditation means really think and think deep and use the knowledge and think about different points of the knowledge, go into the depth of it, and then you will arrive at silence. But just go and have a nice time in the soul world. You're not really in the soul world at all. You're just quiet.
Mhm.
And that's not meditation. Meditation is hard work,
Mm.
but nobody wants to advertise that because then nobody would do it. But actually, it is.
And as you often remind us, this is a study.
It's a study, and the meditation is what you do with the study. You remember in the Murli, he said, after you've heard the Murli, go sit on the roof in solitude and churn. You see,
Mhm.
so churn means ruminate on the knowledge so that you go into the depth of it, and then it will come alive for you, you know. Otherwise,
Mhm.
you remain too superficial and it doesn't really um, make the impact that it could. Yeah.
Yeah, but Sister Denise, in a busy world, after listening to the Murli, many BKs, then they're off going to their different responsibilities. So there's really not much time to be able to spend in solitude and think about the Murli.
That's why he said, come to Madhuban and you can do 1 year's worth of personal development in 1 week because you have the solitude. And, when we had this COVID lockdown, a lot of people couldn't stand it, but BKs loved it because finally we got time to sit down and think. And every so often you get an opportunity, something happens, there's a strike, or you get sick, or you get stuck, somewhere, and then you have that chance. But of course, the nicest is when you're in Madhuban, you don't have any other things you have to do, no duties, you can do it. Yeah.
Thank you, Sister Denise, and thank you so much for, again, all this clarification and helping us to understand more and deeper.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone and translators who are always so good at putting this in so many languages. Thank you. So, Om Shanti.